Everyone, Shawn Dyke here. The video that you're about to watch was recorded at the annual conference for the Association of General Contractors of South Dakota in early January 2019. Now, I was only able to capture about the first half of the keynote, but in that half of the keynote, I define what the skills gap is and what's the underlying cause. And it may not be what you think. You see, a lot of people think that the problem is the people, but the problem's not the people. The problem is, well, you'll have to watch the video to find out. And then later on in the video, I break down some national statistics and some numbers to show the true value of a college education. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you've got any questions, reach out to me on Instagram or shoot me an email at connect@ShawnVanDyke.com. Enjoy the video.
All right, good morning everyone. Thanks for having me here. Like I said, my name is Shawn Dyke and I'm a construction business coach. That's what I do, is I work with construction business owners and contractors all over the United States and really just help them make more money and become more profitable and help them solve their problems. And that's why I'm here today, because there is a problem for everyone in this room. And this problem is affecting the productivity of your projects. This problem is affecting the profitability of your construction businesses, and because the construction industry plays such a vital role in the overall U.S. economy, this problem is affecting our nation as well. And this problem is the skills gap. Now, it's not a surprise to anybody, how we got here. It's just simply define the skills gap as there aren't enough people that are coming into the construction industry and into the trades to replace those that are leaving or have left. Now, we all felt a big hit about 10 years ago during the recession. We lost about 2 million jobs because of the recession. And it's not just that those jobs are gone, it's that those people are gone too. They left the industry and they aren't coming back. And that certainly widened the gap, the skills gap, and it's not helping. But construction is back now. It's in very high demand. And my guess is that if you all had more people, you could probably do more projects and grow your business. So I don't think that we can blame the entire skills gap just on what happened about 10 or 12 years ago. Because there's something else that's been going on. It's been going on for a much longer period of time, and that is simply our aging workforce. Statistics show that in general, up to 10,000 baby boomers retire every single day. So it's a combination of these two things. I see some of the baby boomers around here saying, we got to get retired. Everybody else is leaving. But so this is what the combination of these two things, the effects of the recession and our aging workforce, is widening the gap. And that's just a math problem, meaning there aren't enough people. It's what I call the physical gap. But there's something else that's going on here, and it's been going on for generations. And it's what I call the cultural gap. The cultural gap is a misalignment of beliefs about what leads to a good job. And so society has a tendency to look down on those of us in the trades and in construction as a lesser type of job. Maybe you've said this, and I hear this all the time in my work: if I could just find the right person, the right skills, then we could grow our company. But you can't find that person because they don't exist. Society hasn't been creating them. Society hasn't been creating plumbers, carpenters, project managers, superintendents, heavy equipment operators for years because of this misalignment, this cultural gap. So looking for people that don't exist is like what I call hunting for unicorns. So let me give you a little bit history of the unicorn. So if I asked you to describe a unicorn, how would you describe it? What do unicorns look like? A horse with a horn on it. That's right. And in fact, that's historically accurate. That description of a unicorn has not changed over the centuries. But what has changed about the unicorn is the legend of the unicorn has grown over the centuries. So the first writings and supposed sightings of a unicorn happened in the 4th century BC by the Greeks. And that description is exactly how they described it. Pretty much it's a horse with a long horn on its head. But as the centuries went on, the legend of the unicorn grew until medieval times, where this is a little bit gruesome, but in medieval literature they said if you could capture and cut off the head of a unicorn, and then you cut off the horn, you grind it up, and you can make a powerful elixir. And that elixir would heal your sicknesses, and it could turn poison water potable. Now, I know what you're saying. It's like, where are you going with this, Shawn? What the heck are you talking about? The way that this applies is if you lived in medieval times where sickness was all around and where the noble class was constantly trying to poison each other to gain access to the throne, then capturing a unicorn would prove to be very beneficial. So it's the same thing that we're doing today when we talk about solving the skilled labor gap. Maybe you've said this before. Saying, well, if I could just find somebody with some experience, that's all I need. I just need somebody with some experience. Well, they need some experience, and then they also need some technical training. If I could just find somebody with some experience and some technical training, that's all. Well, no, I'd like them to be able to manage a project too. So some experience, some technical skills, and be able to manage a project. Well, and they'll need their own tools, and they'll need a reliable vehicle, and I'll need them to show up every day. If I could just find those things, all of those things, then my pains would go away, my sickness would be healed. See, what you're looking for is a mystical creature with magical powers that doesn't exist. They don't exist because society hasn't been creating them, or those people that you described, those unicorns, they already have a job. They're not sitting around waiting for you to come find them. So we'll get into this in a little bit about not only how you can attract talent from outside the industry, but how you can also recruit people from other companies. Because those unicorns, the people, those mystical and magical creatures, they might be out there, they just might be working for somebody else. So a lot of times we look at this skilled gap problem and we say the problem is the people. But the problem isn't people. The problem is perception. So if we don't change the perception of what it's like to live and pursue a career in the construction industry, then our businesses are going to suffer, our projects are going to suffer, our communities will suffer, and ultimately our families will suffer if we don't change this perception. So as I was doing some research for this presentation, I talked to several members that are here today. I had a phone conversation with Jared. I talked to Carrie Karst and also Randy Hansen of Mills Construction Group, and they all shared wonderful stories about people in their organizations that came from either outside the industry or that came through the different programs here in the state of South Dakota. And one wonderful thing that I discovered in my research for this was the Build South Dakota program. And I think that South Dakota, in the South Dakota chapter of the AGC, I believe that you all are setting the standard for the nation to follow. I was pleasantly surprised to find this information, these programs that were set up in your state to attract and retain talent in the construction industry. And what I found fascinating by talking with each of these people is the stories that they tell and the way that they have success stories of people that came through this program. And as I researched the program, as you all are very aware of, it was set up several years ago with the help of the former governor and with T. Denny Sanford. And I was doing some research and reading some interviews about Mr. Sanford. I think we're in his building, or at least his namesake, right? And what I think is so impressive about what is going on here in South Dakota, I was impressed and inspired by this quote, where he said, talking about the success of this, is that we can go forward in South Dakota, let's get it done. I know you will, because everything we do here works. That's pretty inspiring. See, the problem isn't the people. The problem is perception. We have to change this perception. And that there's a perception that there's only one path to a good job. So what does society say that you have to do in order, after high school, in order to get a good job? Yeah, you got to go to college. That's right. But society is wrong. So Georgetown University produced a study that shows that 65% of all jobs in the future don't require a college degree. Almost 2/3. Now, most of these jobs of the future do require some post-secondary education, whether it's college courses, associate's degree, or some level of technical training. But 2/3 of all jobs in the future don't require a college degree. Why is society saying that? It's telling our younger generation that you have to go to college. Go to any college, go to any university, studying anything in any major, and that's the path to success. It's just simply not true anymore. So now I'm going to ask you another question, and I promise this isn't a trick question. But how long do you think that it takes the average college student to graduate with a 4-year degree? Like I said, it's not a trick question. 5 years? Not quite. 7? A little bit more, right? In fact, it's 6 years. On average, it takes most college students that enroll 6 years to graduate for a 4-year degree. In fact, that's how the federal government measures the graduation rate. The graduation rate of a 4-year degree is in 6 years. And in fact, this is straight off their website. This is from the National Center of Education Statistics. The 6-year graduation rate for first-time, full-time undergraduate students who began seeking a bachelor's degree at a 4-year institution. Does anybody can you guess what the graduation rate is? What's that? 60%. So not only does the federal government say you may be successful in graduating with a 4-year degree in 6 years, but even after 6 years, it's only 60%. It's basically a little bit better flip of a coin. And what I find interesting about the other side of this statistic is the other 40%. That means that 40% of all students that enroll in college don't graduate. That is a message that younger generations need to hear. Hey, go to college, get a degree. That's the path to a good job. And there's many people that are sitting in this room that probably went this route and knew college wasn't for them. They just wanted to get to work, and you're owning, operating, managing very successful construction businesses. But it's very hard because society says that this is the only path, but these are the facts. And in fact, that's what former Governor Dugard, did I say that right? Okay. You know, when there's a lot of vowels in a name like that from down the south, we like draw it out, Dugard. But anyway, he said the same thing when they were when he was working with Sanford to set up the Build South Dakota programs. He said awareness is an issue. See, the problem isn't people. The problem is perception. So another problem about the perception of what leads to a good job is the value of a college education. Now, how many of you have heard that you will earn more money in your lifetime if you go to college and get a degree? Anyone ever heard that? Okay, yeah, most people. Well, at heart, I'm a numbers guy, and I say, show me the money. So let's take a look, and I'm going to break every rule of the Keynote here by doing math at 8 a.m. in the morning. But you need this information so that you can battle these myths and this perception. So if you'll bear with me here a little bit, let's look at the story of two students. And let's take a look at the money that's actually involved. Let's say one student is a university student, and the other student we'll call a trade school student. Now, can anyone guess, I'm going to guess a little bit this morning, can anybody guess as to what the average cost of a 4-year degree that we know takes 6 years, anybody guess the average cost of a 4-year degree? 150? That's a little bit high. That's a little bit lower than that. What else? 115? Pretty close. It's $130,000 on average to get a college education. Okay, so the trade school. This is assuming a 2-year type of trade program. Do you want to guess as to what the average cost is for a trade school program, a 2-year program? 30. Very close. $31,000 for that education. All right, so now let's take a look at what is the average salary for a university graduate. Anybody had a guess? 30,000, that's a little bit low. 45 is very close. It's $50,000. Anybody want to guess the average salary for a trade school student that has graduated through a trade program?
48.
It's pretty close. 48. We're at 38,000. And these are just playing with national averages. They certainly, in talking with other construction business owners, they certainly can be a lot higher given your state, but I'm just playing around with the averages here. Okay, so far it's like, all right, slight advantage maybe to the university student. But let's do something else. Let's take a look at the future. Let's look at these two students 25 years after they graduate from high school, so they'll both be at the age of 43. And let's continue to run out the numbers. So you have 23 years in the workforce for the trade school student, because most trade programs, if they are, at most they're about 2 years. A lot of them can be 6 months or even shorter if there's very specific technical training. But I just use 2 years here as an example because that's what most people are familiar with. All right, so they're going to have 23 years in the workforce. The college student's going to have 19 years in the workforce because they spent, they have an additional 4 years of college. So let's run out the numbers. If the average salary is $50,000 for a college student over 19 years, that's going to equal $950,000. 23 years at the average salary of $38,000. Again, these are just playing with the averages. It's $874,000. So advantage goes to the university student, $76,000. So you say, okay, Shawn, what's the point? You're kind of going against with what you're saying. But that's usually where it stops. You will earn more money if you go to college. That's what they say. But then they don't continue on with the math. So I'd like to continue on with the math. And a lot of times, they're not considering the cost of finance. And this financing the education comes in the form of debt. So let's run out the debt numbers. And I won't bore you with too many more numbers, but if it costs $130,000 to go to college, to get a 4-year degree in 6 years, you finance that at 4% over 10 years, the cost is $158,000. Now let's apply that to the trade school student as well. $31,000 financed at 4% over 10 years is $38,000. It's $120,000 savings for the trade school student, enters the workforce 4 years earlier and starts developing actual skills. So when you compare that to the $76,000 that the college student was ahead, then it puts the trade school student ahead by about $44,000. Now, when I presented this information before, people get a little bit touchy about it and they say, well, you're not considering performance things. Cost of living increases, raises, promotions, because they want to defend what they've been told, by society in the college. Say, okay, that's great. Let's look at that information as well, and let's make some assumptions. So I'm breaking every rule here by putting a spreadsheet up here that I know you can't see all the numbers. All right, but what this sheet shows, the blackened out areas we have a college path and a trade path. The first 6 years for the college path are blank. In order to complete your university training in 6 years, you're not going to have much time for work. But as opposed to the trade path, you're going to enter the workforce after 2 years. So I ran out the numbers. I know you can't really see them well, but basically what this shows is that after 2 years, the trade student might enter the workforce, $38,000 in debt, and enters the workforce after the second year. And most likely, by the 6th year, after 4 years of actually working, it'll probably happen sooner than that, they can reach journeyman status. And I run out the numbers there. They may be earning around $48,000 a year at that point. As opposed to the college path, that person's going to enter the workforce $158,000 in debt and enter the workforce after year 6. Now, the other colors there indicate some job performance bonuses, not only for the college student, but also for the trade path. And what I find is interesting is I capped the trade path after about 22 years. I didn't give them any more bonuses, but I did do that for the college student because it was unfair. Meaning, the college student wouldn't be able to catch up. So I kept the cost of living increases and some other bonuses on the college path. And still, after all this, what this comes down to, what this graph shows, and what that arrow indicates, is that it takes 23 and a half years for the college student to catch the person in construction and the trades. 23 and a half years. I'm not trying to be unfair to the college student. That assumes the trade person finances 2 years of education. But in most places, getting into the trades and working in construction is a debt-free way, and they get paid to do it. So they can start their lifetime earnings at age 18, if not even before. We're actually going to talk about that in just a second. But this is the gap that I think is more interesting.